From the Sky News Centre, this is Paul Murray Live.
As you know, on this program, I disappointed many of you, but I have been consistent. I was a strong and remain a strong supporter and advocate of same-sex marriage. But remember, all the way through that debate, the No campaign, one of the arguments that they said was that this wasn't just a vote about two blokes or two Sheilas getting married, that there would be other consequences that come from this. And people like myself poo-pooed that logic, poo-pooed that argument. Well, I want to show you the comments of the Attorney-General of the Northern Territory, because tonight, in the past hour, they have just changed the birth certificates in the Northern Territory. Now, they're not going as stupid as Tasmania, where gender is now optional. They are simply adding the third category, the question mark, the X, the we'll get back to you category. But it's this quote from the Attorney-General of the Northern Territory Government that is big news. Australians voted last year to allow same-sex marriage, so there are consequential amendments needed in the Northern Territory, particularly around birth certificates allowing for male, female or other gender identities. That was not the question that was put to the Australian people. That was not the yes-no question that the plebiscite was carried right across the country. But you haven't heard that from a backbench Green. You haven't heard that from a crazy mayor. You've heard that from the Chief Law Officer of the Northern Territory when introducing a bill that has passed the Parliament to add the third status to gender, that the reason it had to happen was because of the same-sex marriage vote last year. This is going to be a seismic change in the debate about religious freedom and about where to next, about how we can ensure that two blokes being able to marry or two Sheilas being able to marry is as far as that change went. When I voted yes, I certainly did not vote for the question of whether birth certificates should be amended. Now, I am pretty socially liberal, and I want to make sure that if somebody wants to opt out of the boy-girl system, that's fine, that's their business. If a parent wants to do it, well, in my view, that's their mistake, but legally they should be able to do it. But it is now official. The suggestion that the slippery slope was just fear-mongering, well, I point you to the words of the Chief Law Officer, the Attorney-General of the Northern Territory. Still in the Northern Territory, but let's go via Canberra. Today was the day when all of the crossbenchers came out and thumped their chest, along with the Greens, about the need for a law to be passed for the medical evacuation of kids on Nauru. There are apparently about 17 children that are left on the island. Pardon me. 17 children left on the island, and Kerryn Phelps, this was the number one thing that she wanted to achieve after taking up her position in the Parliament. When I was in Canberra the past few days, from the second you get off the plane to the roads that lead to Parliament House, big signs everywhere, get the kids off Nauru. So this massive political issue about 17 kids who do not live in a jail, they live in a taxpayer-funded centre with the door that is open with which you can come and go. A place, by the way, that some 40 families who went to the United States because they wanted to get off Nauru said, we want to go back to Nauru. Well, these people and these politicians are posturing people who truly are doing the country a disservice. I'm not talking about even border security. I'm talking about what is their responsibility. They want to bleat and carry on and cry that they care about children. They want to stand there and talk about what's happening in Nauru because of a medical emergency, a psychological emergency, a sexual abuse emergency. Well, what about the Northern Territory? Every single one of the MPs who stood up in front of those cameras today have said nothing about the hell that is what is happening in regional Australia, particularly in the Northern Territory. Their responsibility is to be Australian politicians, but they don't give a stuff about the problem that is their responsibility. Instead, let's posture about the one that isn't. Because 17 kids is a whole lot easier to solve than the real problem in Australia. Have a look at some numbers that come from the Northern Territory government. You don't have to be a genius to work out that just 5 years ago, 12,000 cases of abuse were being reported to the Northern Territory government. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, it's 24,000. 24,000. Yet the posturing and carrying on in Canberra is about 17 kids in another country. And when we talk about the age group of the kids that are the ones that are being neglected and abused, that is equally shocking. By far the biggest number are 0 to 4 years of age, 7,675. It goes up and up and up every freaking year. Yet these people say the great moral challenge, the hashtag of our times, the thing to put billboards in front of our freaking national capital, is 17 kids in Nauru. Don't come at me with your fake compassion, with your wobbling voices, and with your bleeding hearts that we must do something, when you do nothing about a football stadium of children, 80% of which are Indigenous. Just in the past couple of years, we've told you the stories about babies that are born with syphilis, babies that die because their mother has syphilis, 6-year-olds that are being attacked with machetes, 2-year-olds that are being raped. Instead, they use their moment in the sun, their ability to shape national conversation, their ability to influence the government and the direction of this country on 17 kids in Nauru. Now, I am not saying we should not care about the 17 kids in Nauru, but where the hell were these people when it was thousands of kids in Nauru? Where were they when it was hundreds of kids in Nauru? They are there because their parents decided to break the law. Their parents decided to pay a people smuggler. That doesn't mean those children should suffer. But that's why the government has moved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children out of those centres. But it's the problems with their parents that mean 17 are still left. Yet last night I saw it with my own eyes. The crossbenchers were all clinking bubbly and laughing in the corridors of Canberra with their newfound power, their newfound ability to be able to troll the national debate. They don't care about Aussie kids because this is the too hard basket. Yet again, a generation of children are in the too hard basket. Look at the graph again, the past 5 years. Now, you can tell me that reporting standards have got better and all the rest of it, but it's double. Despite billions of dollars and all the best will in the world and closing the gap and saying sorry and every freaking speech and every freaking march, it gets worse. I see with my own eyes how broken and how poisonous our politics is. Whereas they clink glasses of champagne in the corridors, The kids in the bush are somebody else's problem. You have the power to do something. You are the people who can make and break a government. Stop lecturing us about Nauru and focus on the babies at home.